we're recording, so don't say anything too bad. We have fun in this class. So the first thing that we're talking about, okay, we need to know what the campaign is. We're sending an email for students to send in their pictures. It's a request. So the first thing we're going to do is go to campaigns. And we're going to start a new campaign. Okay, I don't have a list of all the students, but for the purposes, we're going to talk about the students that were in my class. So this is the list that I have. So we'll send it to a segment so you can see, and you can choose all sorts of whatever it happens to be. For one of the most important segments for me is a class taken, right? So then we can say, we can say London, for example. So I've taught in London before, so I have a list of students who have taken the class in London, and let's say it contains London. So this will send it to 8 students who took the class the first time I was here. So that's our list. Okay, so we need to name our campaign. This is just so we know what we're doing, and we'll say this is a photo request from, this is just descriptive. Where did you guys take a trip to? You can put, this is your email subject, so what do you want to use as a subject line?
I put, relive our Finland adventure.
Okay. Right, so remember there's 2 things that we're going to do. We want them to open it, then we want them to do something. Right, so relive our Finland adventure. What do you guys think? Would you open this email if you'd just been on a trip?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. I would say personally, maybe you want to do something like see photos from our trip, right? The number one most effective tool for Facebook's growth was whenever someone's tagged in a photo, it emails them and says your friend has tagged you in a photo. And I use that trick often when other people are sending emails, like you were captured in something. And so make it true, obviously. But the CIA is stalking you. No. But so you could say, and for example, you probably have one photo, so like check out our group photo from Finland or something. That will maybe make people more likely to open it. Not that this is bad. It's just that would be my first idea. And then of course you put in your name and your reply to. It can be whatever it happens to be. So tracking is really important because that's the whole point of using these sorts of programs. So you can see here where it says Google Analytics link tracking. This to me is MailChimp will give you their own stats. So you'll track opens and clicks and so forth, which is built into the MailChimp program. But if you want to blend it into everything else that's going on, so for example, you want to know how many people went to the website and uploaded photos and all the rest of it, you'll want to track that analytics, and the inbound for the traffic on your website will now have this link here, right? Photo request from Finland. And when we look at analytics this afternoon, you'll see where that comes in. Right? These are more specific things if you bought some separate add-ins, so don't worry about that. But the most important thing is here, Google Analytics link tracking. Okay. And then there's some other options, right? But these are not as important. The ones that are most important are fill in these pieces of information and tracking Google Analytics. And then you go to the next, and now we're going to actually start our campaign. Okay, so there's different templates that you can use. We're going to use the one that I already have set up for my class. But anyway, if it's your very first time, you'll want to create a template. I recommend if you're to hire a real designer, spend $1,000, whatever version currency you're using, and get a template that you can use over and over and over again that really works well. MailChimp will go to your website and pull your colors and give you sort of an automated template, which can work depending on how sophisticated you want to be. But I do recommend for when you're building a business that it looks like your business. Usually a designer is going to be the best person for that. But nevertheless, oh, that's weird. Well, we'll use a pre-designed template then. Anyone strike you as something interesting to try? Well, there's lots of options these days. Here, why don't we'll do an automated event. All right, so this is going to be the look and feel of your email. And now we actually have to put in all of our contents. Okay. So actually, you have all the email ready, right?
Yep.
Do you want to send it to me? My email is ericmorrow@gmail.com. Do I have my email? Okay, so what we'll do when that email comes in is we're gonna edit all this content, and you can see they have. So probably we don't want a card here. Do you have an actual? We won't change the picture. Or we actually might as well. Do you have a picture that we can use?
Yeah, hold on.
You can send me a link or send me the actual picture. All right, awesome. So we'll take this. And so the way MailChimp works, I'm not as familiar with all the other ones, but you can see there's all these little boxes. And you just edit each box and you can put in text or images as you like. So all right. And we'll say cool. And we'll leave these, but I mean, we could, depending on what you can do, you could say, here's a blog that someone wrote about, right? Or you could say, for example, and read the school write-up. Anyway, but we'll leave, there's lots of little things that you could change, but we'll just leave the main one. You send the photo?
Coming.
Okay. Anyway, so we'll change out the photo, and then there's our website. There's our website. There's our email. You can make it, of course, you can make it as complicated as you want, but I recommend just keeping it straightforward and simple, right to the point. Oh, and we have some links here. Oh, there's not the links.
Oh yeah.
That's okay. So just to show you, if this was if we had a link to copy and paste in, you just go to just the little link button, right? And you can put in your links, and it'll just look like this. Okay. Well, anyway, it's not a big deal.
That's fine.
So this would you would change this out to a photo, and then there's something plain text. So this is an HTML version, which means there's colors and pictures and the whole deal. Plain text will look quite a lot more boring, but depending on, I don't think there's a lot of people anymore who open things like this, but there may be. But what you do is it just copies it over, right? So and if you change it later, you can just go copy text from HTML email, and it'll put in whatever is here. But if people are opening emails like this, they're probably not going to be too busy engaging with your brand. But nevertheless, MailChimp requires you to have it just because if the HTML doesn't come in, they're going to send this instead. And then when you go next, we won't send it but it'll give you a little list of all the different things that are happening. And that's it. And then you click send now or schedule for a later time. That's it. And it's going to go out to your group. So,
Do you send only marketing emails in MailChimp, or
what do you mean?
like obviously that's pretty snazzy just for any sort of email?
Well, it depends on, I'm going to show you right now, is if you want to look at the statistics, then you need to send it through one of these things because it'll put all the tags in for you properly. If it's obviously if it's still like one person to ask them for something, you don't need to do it.
No.
But if you send it to 50 people and you want to see who's opening it and see how engaged your audience is, then it is really important.
Okay.
And once you have your template set up, it's really just going to be copying and pasting in the text and adding a few links and so forth. So just so you know, for example, I recently sent this top 10 newsletter. So you might have heard as I'm going through each of the different points in class, I say the one thing that I want you to remember And then one of my students said, why don't we make a top 10 list? And we're going to talk about top 10 lists tomorrow. And so I said, okay, I will. And so I created this, my graphic design skills on full display, created this awesome top 10 list and send it to people, right? So now what we can do is we can look at the report. And this is the advantage of using MailChimp. Right, so we can see here. Right, it gives you lots of information, but it puts the two most important pieces of information right at the top, which is how many people opened it, and then how many people clicked inside the link.
What's a good benchmark?
Is that 19% of the 56 or 57%, or is that 19% of everybody you sent to?
It's 19% of the people who opened it.
Of the people who opened it?
I believe that's right. We could double check that though. So 112 opened it, which is, so what's 40 out of 200?
Sorry, I could have worked out myself. Yeah.
Is 40 out of 200 20%? It is. Oh, okay, so then never mind. That's out of the whole group.
Right.
And then you can see 6 bounced. It means the email didn't work. And then 2 people unsubscribed. Benchmarks. Personally, I think benchmarks are almost useless. But MailChimp, first of all, gives you it. It tells you what my list average is. My list is super targeted, right? It's for the people who I've spent so much time with in a classroom. Not unusual for that. My list is very high. Most people open their emails, or at least over half in this particular case. And you can see the industry average would be 15%. So it's better than that, but that's because my list is really small and really targeted, and I send emails once a year. Right? So when it pops up, what's going on? And so, yeah, I would say probably for, depending on how targeted, the more targeted it is and the smaller the group, the higher the numbers are going to be. When you get to really big numbers, 10%, 1% are probably sort of, I would say, global averages. But yeah, the best thing to do, and MailChimp makes it really easy, is just to look at your own numbers over time. Which, when it loads up, we will see.
And how does it build up the numbers for industry? Is it based on your settings, right?
It's based on, so when you're going to MailChimp, it asks you what industry you're in, and then based on its own MailChimp stats. So it doesn't look outside in the world. It just says people who use MailChimp, these are their stats. So you can see over here, I'm not sure exactly how much time this is, since this is January. So this is from the beginning of the year. You can see there's not that many data points because I don't send that many emails, but so this email did way better than this email. And so over time, you can kind of see where it's going, and yeah, no one has anything for me to show you, so I can show you that data. But nevertheless, yeah, you can just see it as it moves.
What about email frequency? Have you got any tips on how often you're allowed to barrage your customer base?
Yeah, if it's a gift, it doesn't matter. If the email's so awesome that they're going to feel compelled to open it, that's all that really is relevant. But just the best way to do it is to start testing, right? Because you're going to start having all these numbers. So if you send an email once a week and it's consistently opened at 20% and you feel really comfortable with that, try sending an extra email during the week. So send a Monday and a Thursday and then see what happens. As an example, recently for IBM, we were testing, it's called IBM Data Mag, it's just an online magazine. We have subscribers and we were emailing once a month. We wanted to see what would happen if we started emailing twice a month. And our numbers went, I don't know off the top of my head, but let's say the open rate was 18%. It went to 15%, but it stayed pretty consistent. So we were able to touch our audience more often. But what we can do is you can go in here and you can see actually which people are the people who like to open it twice a week and the people who, once they start getting it twice a week, didn't open it anymore. And then now tailor it based on that. I think you'll probably see when you look at some of the bigger retailers, they'll often ask you when you're unsubscribing, was it because it was too often? We'll send you less, right? You see that all the time. So that allows you to segment your list based on, do people want to get it once every week, once every month, once every year, whatever it happens to be. Once your list gets big enough to warrant doing it. On average, I would say once a month is probably fine. And once, if you have enough content, then twice a month maybe. But unless you really have fresh new content all the time, there's not going to be that much of a reason to email people.
How do you see which ones dropped off, or can you see from this
Yes.
who actually opened it? Or
You
is
can.
it just...
You can get really creepy really fast. So before we do this, number one, in theory, this is a confidential list, so just don't look at people's names. Not that I don't think anyone really cares, but if you are sharing data with people, theoretically all this information is confidential. But more importantly, don't, as a good rule of thumb, don't tell people that you're tracking them, right? This is a mistake. When I was working at a company called DataCat, this is a mistake we made. It was a very robust, the MailChimp and Google Analytics is nice, but we had an even more robust system. And we could tell when people opened our email and when they came to our website and which pages they were looking at and at what time, right? We had everything on them. And our sales force would call up and say, hey, we noticed that you looked at these 6 pages about something, and they're like, oh yeah, it's really creepy. Which doesn't, so you have to use that information, but then we trained our sales force to say, hi, we're following up with our customers in this region to check on latest developments, or what, that was essentially what we said, and that was much better. So just so you know, you get, all this information is available, but I wouldn't recommend telling your customers that you're following them that closely. Where is the specific thing? Okay, so for example, top 10 newsletter, we can view the report, and we can see here. We just have to scroll down. Okay. For example, okay, so you can see all the people and who opened it, and if you want to, you could probably find out what time and if they forwarded it and all this kind of stuff. So this will list all the people who opened. You can also, see who clicked.
So you can see if somebody has forwarded your email.
Yes. Or at least an approximation. If when it shows that people opened it more than once, it's very unlikely that people came back and opened it. It's more likely that they sent it to someone else who opened it. So the way this tracking works is it embeds a pixel so when it loads up the images, it loads up this little pixel, and that pixel tells MailChimp that your email is opened.
So the forwarded figure is an approximation based on anybody opened it multiple times?
Exactly, because you don't really know. But for example, it's unlikely that this person opened it 6 times because they thought it was that cool. It's more likely that they forwarded it, but we don't actually know.
Right. Yeah.
Just a guess.
So you then say they've opened it once and forwarded 5. So that's 6. So
Yeah.
you're then saying that's 5 forwards. Right.
But you'll find often I find I know the people that are my bigger fans of my work and share it more regularly, and you see that reflected in the numbers.
Right. Okay.
But it also is good. So for me, for example, when I always like to ask feedback about the class. When I send the email and I see who opened it and who forwarded it, those are the people I'll go to and say I want to get some more feedback, because it gives me an indication of who's more engaged. So yeah, it's a little bit of sort of thinking about it. And of course you can find the people who unsubscribe. Anyway, you can find all the information here.
A lot of like from other people working in businesses and startups that they've got a customer base in Northamptonshire or whatever,
Okay.
Can you track IP addresses and location?
Yes, you can track locations. The question is, where exactly is it? Oh, well, anyway, what we're looking at right now is a click map. Shows you of the people who clicked, what percentage clicked where. So 30% clicked on this, and anyway, you can see through. Geography, I believe, is an overview. Yeah, here we go. So it'll give you the country, but I don't believe MailChimp will give you. Oh well, no. Looks like it does. Cool. So yeah, so you can. I don't know how detailed we can get. How creepy we can be. It looks by state. Okay. So yeah, you can zoom in on their city. But in theory, their IP address gives you all of it. So it's just just depends on what MailChimp gives you back.
Within the body of an email, what are the hot spots?
The hotspots, images, banners, and then links.
And if this is the map, is it up?
Always above the fold, which is, this is website lingo, but anything at the top is going to be more than anything at the bottom. Because they'll open and look, but they're not necessarily going to scroll. But there's lots of eye mapping studies, they call heat maps, and they say that people read in the Z fashion, so they'll read across the top, and then they'll go down the left-hand side, and then they'll read it across again. I think trying to develop content based on this information is probably not so useful. If you were sending 10 million emails, maybe in every single percentage, one way or the other, really mattered, then I could see that make a difference. But my favorite quote is, "Don't squeeze the blood from the stone." right? Just produce good content, and people will read it and open it and use it.
Do you know what the percentages are? US is over 100%.
Oh, these are clicks, or opens, I mean, sorry. At 118 opens, which makes
Because
it,
of the forwards.
sorry, say that
Is
again?
that because of the forwarding? People open multiple times?
It's 118 opens and next to it is a percentage figure.
Oh.
It's 59.
Oh, pardon me, okay, got it.
Yeah, so this is 59% and 25% and so
Very
forth.
precise number, okay, got it.
Yeah, this is not very good UX. But yeah, that's what's going on there. We should write to MailChimp and let them know. So that's the real basics of how to send an email campaign. I think we have. Okay, it's 1:40, so why don't we do this? Do you guys want the practice of setting up a campaign? Would that be useful for you? How do you up or down? Quick gut check. Yeah?
I'm indifferent.
Indifference. Indifference. So why don't we do this? Let's take 5 minutes and at least get you registered for MailChimp and just browse around for a second just so you have a good feel. But what I'll ask you to do is this example. Actually, I'm going to turn off the recording now.